Hi, if you'd like to see how I used only 3 crafty supplies to create the main focal elements on this card, please continue watching this video and I'll show you how I did it. So my main supplies are from Altenew. This is a pretty paper pack, a beautiful floral stamp, and the third one is the coordinating die that I'll use to create the die cuts. So let me first walk you through the supplies that I'm going to be using in addition to the 3 main ones. One is of course the card base. I'm using Nina Solar White 110 pound, and these are the papers that I just talked about, and this is a pack of 24 papers, beautiful gradient colors, and of course they're double-sided, and I'm going to show them to you in just a second. The stamp and die set that I'm using is called the Bougainvillea. This is beautiful. It's from Altenew. It's quite a large stamp, and it has the coordinating dies and of course the set of stencils, but I won't be using the stencils today. So let me just show you the beautiful colors, and again, like you can see, these are double-sided papers and all the colors come in 2s, so you have 2 sets of the papers, and just look at how beautiful the gradient is on each of these sheets, and then the reverse side is also equally beautiful, and there is so much opportunity to use these for really quick cards or tags, etc. And yeah, very pretty. I love the colors. I think I'm going to use this purple one today, and I'm actually going to use the reverse side. I'll be using this side actually. So without further ado, I think we'll get started. So I want to first create the background, right? And I want a very thin white border around the gradient background. So I'm going to just cut this up to about 3 3/4 by 5, because I'd like to have that 1/4 inch white frame all around the background. So I'm going to conserve obviously all the scrap papers, because even though I don't show it in this video, but I'll use some of those thin strips that I cut out for my envelope. So the background is done. I'm going to get started with the stamping, and as you can see, this is such a simple process. I am going to stamp this using the Altenew Jet Black ink, which is very crisp, and as you can see, the stamp is a little bit too big for this card, so I'm going to use only part of that, and I'm going to cut around the image. Of course, I'm going to stamp the whole image, and then I'm going to cut around it, as you'll see. So I'm just taking a piece of paper that's, you know, eyeballing it, and that's large enough for that stamp, and I'm taking my stamp positioner. I'm using the Misty here, because using a stamp positioner will allow me to stamp the image a few times. This is a new stamp. I'm using it for the first time, so I will need to at least create 2 to 3 impressions to have a really nice, crisp and dark image. Of course, if you're using a smaller stamp, you can definitely just break out your acrylic block and use that instead of a stamp positioner. But be sure that if you think you need to stamp the image multiple times, you do use a stamp positioning tool. Whether it's the Misty or something else, it doesn't really matter, as long as you're able to stamp it down multiple times. So I'm going to just use my pressure tool here and press it down really well to get a nice crisp image. And I can see that I missed a spot, like it didn't really stamp properly, so I'm going over it again. And this is the beauty of the stamp positioning tool, right? Just do it as many times as you need, and without, of course, you know, making sure that the paper, the cardstock, isn't moving as you're stamping. So that's why you saw me keep moving the magnet and pushing the paper back into the into the positioning tool properly. And yep, just wiping up that stamp. And while I have the Misty out, I'm going to also stamp out the sentiment. You'll see me do some heat embossing with a clear embossing powder, but that is completely optional. You can just leave it as a basic stamped sentiment. So once I've picked up the stamp on the Misty door, I go ahead and use some anti-static powder because, like I mentioned, I wanted to heat emboss the sentiment just to give it a bit of a gloss. So I'm using the jet black again to stamp the sentiment, and I will be using clear embossing powder because I don't need any color over this. I'm just ensuring that the impression is nice and dark, and using my pressure tool to make sure that it's stamped well. And I store my clear embossing powder in this Tupperware because it just makes it easy for me to use it, and just helps me, have more than a bottle of embossing powder in that, because the bottles are usually tiny and I run out of embossing powder. So that's a way to store a larger amount. So now you can see that I've embossed it. I took it off to the side and heated it up and melted the powder, and I have a nice glossy sentiment, and I have that floral image. So I'm going to use the coordinating dies and cut out both the sentiment and the floral cluster here, and I'm going to secure the dies with some washi tape to make sure they don't shift when I'm using my die cutting machine. And if you're curious, I use a Gemini Junior. It's an electronic die cutting machine, and I've been quite happy with it, mostly except for the plates that keep getting warped. But I found a nice alternative for it. I think the brand is Craft First that I got off of Amazon, and they have performed really well. They have not warped even a bit, even like after using them for months. So I can definitely vouch for them, much better than the Gemini Junior plates. So now that the dies are taped down, I am just you see it's a well-loved plate. You can see I've been using it for a while. That's the Craft First plates. So I just took them off to the side where my die cutting machine is, and I die cut the sentiment and the floral images. You can see I brought in my Simon Says Stamp magnetic glass mat because it really helps me to use the magnet and hold everything down. And like I pointed out, I can't use the entire floral image, as you can see, so I'm going to cut around that portion. And and whatever I have left, I'm going to use on the envelope, which I don't really show in the video, but I will show you a photo of it. I don't show how I made it, but you'll be able to see the picture. So I'm just using my scrapbook.com fussy cutting scissors. They're really sharp, and I love that I can go around this image and I can cut it out. So I'm being a little bit careful here because I want to preserve the remainder of that bunch and use it on my envelope like I mentioned. So I'm just going to be very careful, cut it out, and roughly cut it out first without damaging anything, and then I'm going to refine the borders around that flower. Yeah, I'm just trying to be patient, and that's not a virtue that I have, but I'm trying. I'm just going to snip off the end of that stem to just clean it up a little bit. And now you see that the edges are a little bit rough, so I'm going to clean them up as best as I can without ruining it completely, and I can use it on the card. Didn't turn out really that well. I wasn't completely happy, but I couldn't cut away any more than I already have, so it has to stay the way it is right now. And I am just going to bring in a makeup brush a fluffy makeup brush that I have just for this purpose, to clean up little bits and pieces. And I'm trying to see where I really love how that dark background, the dark part of the gradient offsets the sentiment. But if I place the floral cluster here, as you'll see, it won't really look that nice. It's going to be completely disbalanced. So I have to place it above the cluster and in the center. I think if the sentiment is nice and centered, I think that's the best place for it. So just trying to figure out what angle and how much of it to, how to stick it down. And now I'm going to use my liquid glue. I use Barely Art. I love the glue. It comes with a precision tip, and it's really strong. So I kind of use that for all my projects. And here I just got my tweezers, not scissors. I got my pair of tweezers out and just holding the die cut to make it convenient, to apply the glue and then to stick it down. I always like to use my tweezers when I'm sticking down die cuts or card bases, etc., because it gives me more precision, so. And you see, the magnets are so handy. I just put them down over there, and it will help with the adhering of the die cut to the card base, to the card panel. And the sentiment is down as well. I'm just trying to straighten it out the best I can, and I think it is pretty good. So I'll put the magnet there and hold it down so it dries, and actually it dries pretty quickly. So I'd given it a couple of minutes before I picked up the scissors to chop off all the overhanging bits and pieces, and because you don't want to do it right away after gluing it down, because the glue is still wet and your die cuts will move. So I gave it a couple of minutes, of course. Now that it's done, I can adhere it to the card base. And again, I come in with my liquid glue, my trusty Barely Art liquid glue, and I did notice that I hadn't chopped it off very neatly, so I removed the excess. This is a really, really quick card, as you can see. Of course, because I'm making this video, it took a little bit longer. But if I were just making this card, I can assure you it would not take more than 20 minutes. If I were to create the card base, the note card and everything, the stamping, the heat embossing, all of that put together would not take more than 20 minutes. So this is how quick and easy this card is. And I wanted to keep it black and white, like the image black and white, because we already have a beautiful gradient in the background, and I didn't want to add more color. But I will finish it off with a few sequins, and these sequins are lovely because even though they're white, they're kind of a little bit iridescent, and it picks up the background colors really well. So just playing around with the positioning of the sequins, and yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that arrangement. So I'll just stick them down again, because the Barely Art glue has a precision tip. It's so easy to use when you're gluing down embellishments. And the card is done. So simple yet so pretty, right? So here are a few more shots of the card, and you see the envelope on the right. I used the remaining strips from the gradient paper that I had, and the remainder of the die cut image, and I just stuck it down on the back of the envelope. and it is done. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and do subscribe to my channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.